Well, hello. How are you? I can't remember how to use the menu in Spelunky. Welcome to another Spelunky Daily Challenge video where I'm talking about a particular topic for a while I play, and it has to be within the topic of things that have been very influential or inspirational to me in certain ways. So, today's topic. Sorry, by the way, that I haven't done this for ages. Things happen. A lot of things happen. Today's topic is university, which I had to think for a while about before I came up with, because to be honest, I'm kind of running a bit thin on the ground of things, but I also wanted something that was significant enough to fit into this category and felt like a big enough deal in my life. And some things, are a very big deal in my life, or have been very influential, and some not so much. And the more and more I thought about university, the more I figured that actually it was a huge deal. And naturally, for a lot of people, particularly nowadays with the broadening of higher education, a lot of people have university experiences, and they are obviously a defining part of a person's life. But it's more than just that. I don't want to just say to you, sorry, I'm scratching my face, which is why I'm not walking anywhere. I'm so out of practice. I don't know what I'm doing. How do I do this? Is it worth bombing to go in there? It's not. I should probably save my bomb. I should probably stop wasting time. University is obviously a big deal for lots of people, but for me, it's more than just that I went to a place and had an education and did some things. If you hear any noises, I do apologise. It's probably something on my computer just bleeping because something's happened that is hopefully not significant. Because for me, my university experience was doing a degree, but it was also an experience of a lot of poverty, and it was a lot of experience of a lot of different people, and it was a lot of experience of independence, of having a lot of independence and making a lot of decisions and choices, and some were very difficult, or some were poor decisions, and some of the things that happened were unusual, or I don't know. I'm just kind of equivocating now, so I should probably so I had to pause then to scratch my face. Basically what I'm trying to do is play this game and also scratch my face and talk, and it's impossible. I can't do any of these things. I went for proper university, so let's give you some actual information. For proper university, I went to London Metropolitan University in North London. It actually has a couple of different campuses because it's two different universities that merged together in what was basically, and still kind of is, an administrative, I don't really want to say nightmare, but an administrative nightmare. They merged and they became something just bizarre, and I think in retrospect a lot of people think that the merge wasn't a very good idea, and the reasons behind it were maybe not the best reasons. I can't comment on that huge amount because I don't really know, but the university has and still had and still has some problems. But I was in North London most of the time, in a place that's exactly what I wanted you to do. Mostly in a place called Holloway Road, because that's where the campus was, where I did philosophy. Although that said, I didn't really just go to London Met University, because I actually tried to do a degree when I was 19. And I tried to do a computer science degree, and that was a terrible idea. And I tried to do that in a place called Farnborough, which is near where I used to live, in kind of Hampshire and Surrey. And I should first of all mention a little bit about that, as it'll give context to some of the other stuff that happened in my life, I suppose. I go to this place in Farnborough, and I try and do things that are technical, that I'm not very good at, because I'm not always great at technical things. And I'm particularly not good at programming. There's a lot of programming from the second year onwards. The first year has a lot of theory and background. And I'm good at theory and background, and I'm good at writing. But the place that I go to in Farnborough, first of all, isn't all that good. And I'm going to a place in Farnborough because it's near where I live, so I'm staying at home in an attempt to save money, which is immediately actually a cause of a bunch of problems. The course isn't very good, and I'm doing something that I don't like, and then I do a couple of quite silly things, and one of those, or maybe the most significant one, is I just keep doing it, and I don't like it, and I keep doing it. Oh my goodness, that was unexpected and in a way fortunate. Where is that person? Where's he gone? I've got myself into some trouble now. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if this is going to, oh dear, this is going to go very well. But it's not a good idea to keep doing something that you don't like doing at university for the sake of sort of finishing it and then, I don't know what, going into possibly taking a career in that thing that you then don't like. But I did kind of okay in the first year, but I didn't put a huge amount of effort in, which is not a good idea generally in anything important. Is, you know, you want to put effort into important things because why wouldn't you? But also financially I have a bunch of problems. No one in my family had ever been to university before, and we didn't really know anything about it, and I wasn't entirely aware of how the finances worked. What a lot of my friends did who were savvier than me, and just not silly, was got student loans and often invested those student loans, which were student loans at very low rates, in accounts that had higher rates of interest, so that at the end of their course they would take the money out and have made a profit, because they're all people who are mostly studying from home as well. And I didn't really understand how student loans worked, and I didn't fully understand how to pay for my education or get that subsidised, because I didn't really know that all of this could happen, so I just didn't do it. And I paid for it all out of my own pocket. And the thing is, for a while I'd been a sort of an accounts assistant. I worked in an accounts department, and so because I'd been working since I was 16 in some respect, I usually had some money. And I never had a huge amount of money, but I was always earning and I had money, so it wasn't strange for me to sort of have money and spend it. So I just thought, okay, I have to spend all my money at this university, paying for tuition and paying for costs of other things, because I had no idea about how the student loan system worked. And it wasn't until my second year that I properly applied for it and got assistance with costs of stuff. And that was also the point where I wasn't enjoying my course anymore, and was generally having a kind of a rubbish time. And coming to university and doing stuff that I was bad at, that I didn't care about, kind of all the time, which is really not the best position to be in, as you can probably imagine. Now, I'd always wanted to write about video games, and I managed to start doing freelance writing about video games. I think when I was trying to repeat my second year of university, because I failed my second year, I just did awfully. I would go into these exams and feel terrible about what I was doing, feel terrible about myself, and feel terrible about my course and the money I'd spent, and lots of things. And then the opportunity came up to write for magazines that I liked and that I thought were good. And I had a pretty good summer job that turned into a pretty good part-time job, which was a reliable source of income. And then I could do stuff that I liked doing. So I made a really scary choice, which turned out to be actually a good idea in retrospect. I mean, it didn't seem so necessarily on paper, but I just stopped studying something that I didn't like, and spending money going to a place and spending my time in a place that I didn't enjoy, and instead wrote for magazines and worked in a place that was quite nice, and reviewed video games. And oops, I forgot that I've got the gloves, so actually throwing a bomb at this man might be quite difficult. going to be very difficult. How am I going to do this? Oh. Oh. Bombs are hard. And that was a really good life choice in retrospect, because it gave me I think more happiness, and it certainly gave me more of a sense of feeling capable in what I was doing. It's nice to feel capable in what you're doing. It's nice to feel respected. And yeah, it's nice to receive respect. What am I doing? How am I going to do this? I'm really struggling. Really struggling. And then I did that for... Oh, well, hang on now. I should be doing this, is what I should be doing. Is there another shopkeeper somewhere? Oh, there was this chap. Hello. Okay, no, I'm focus ball, focus now. In the old Spelunky, I used to do that a lot, and that would be a way to get a lot of bombs and a lot of health, but I think they've adjusted the waiting for sacrifices, so you can't exploit the game massively anymore. First university, yes. Did that for quite a while until some of my life circumstances changed and I wasn't enjoying it so much, and I wasn't doing it so much, and I also felt restless and stuck in Hampshire, which is a very easy place to feel restless and stuck in, because it's horrible, mostly. And eventually I made another decision that was really hard and really kind of maybe scary and unwise on paper, which was to go to university in London, because I knew people in London. I had friends in London and I'd been there before, and I knew how to get around, and I knew about it, even though it was a big move for me. That was a silly bomb. I decided that I would do what I'd always wanted to do, which was some kind of humanities course, humanities or film, in London, and it looked like it was probably going to be philosophy, and in the end it was, after I checked out a bunch of different places. I made possibly not the best choice, again a lot like the first time that this is quite hard. The first time that I decided I was going to university, when I went to that not great technical college to do computer science, the whole selection procedure could have gone better, and I could have picked somewhere else, and I could have done philosophy possibly at a better university, or possibly at a more prestigious one. But the way things worked out, they worked out kind of pretty good, and there's certain things I wouldn't have got if I'd gone to other universities. But yeah, I decided, okay, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to get a proper student loan and do the student loan thing properly, and go to London, and probably not have very much money, and be extremely independent and struggle, and make the scary choices, which I did. A hilarious first thing was, because I'd failed to finish my first degree, because I'd stopped, I wasn't eligible for all the funding that other people could get if they were doing their very first degree. So it was my second attempt. I could get funding and student support, but I couldn't get as much as I could have got otherwise if I'd not made a mistake beforehand. This is ridiculous. So the debt thing was going to be more of a debt thing. I'm slightly tired as well. I got off an aeroplane a little while ago and flew quite a long way. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about everything. I'm so sorry about me. And so that was a thing. I didn't have very much money anyway before I headed off to London. So I was in a difficult position where I made a choice to go to live somewhere more expensive. Initially, even more expensive than I thought it was going to be. Really not prepared for it. The student loan for students in London is higher because of the cost of living, but I think proportionally it doesn't actually work out as being helpful. That was close, wasn't it? That could have gone a lot worse with the whole bomb thing. So I certainly threw myself kind of into the wolf's mouth or something there, and also from a sort of an academic perspective, or from a couple of perspectives, London Met was a terrible choice. London Met has several times been ranked as either the worst or one of the worst universities in the UK, the UK's university rankings. Its rankings are dire, they are awful. And having now been there and ending up there for 5 years rather than 3 years because of reasons which I'll hopefully explain if I have enough time, I can see exactly why that happens. And it's not necessarily reflective of everything at the university, because there are a lot of things at the university that are actually really good, but there are a lot of things that are also what we would call problematic. Sorry that you can hear me repeatedly tapping away, but I do need to make sure that I deal with every problem quite thoroughly. Okay, good, right. Okay, so I can leave a gun here. Is there anything that I meant to pick up earlier that I forgot? Was there a dog? Do I need the health from the dog, or can I sacrifice the dog? Let's keep the dog for now, because jungle levels are horrible. And there's lots of stabby traps that do 4 points of damage. So I'm going to university with no money and not really enough preparation, but I'm going to do something that I like in a place that I want to go to. And that's probably the key thing, is I want to do this. It's basically I've made a choice to try something that I like, rather than what would just be sensible or practical. And what happens in my first year is actually I have an amazing time, and I end up in some cheap student halls. They're pretty cheap. They're quite cheap. Now that was cheeky. That was very cheeky, and that could have been a problem, but fortunately wasn't. A thing that I don't know about, or two things that I don't know about London Met University at first, or that I don't find out, is it has quite a big international student body, and that's part of how it sort of makes the money it does. To some degree, it's kind of just run like a business to make a bunch of money, and getting international students in is quite a good way to do that sometimes. But if you're someone like me, that's actually amazing, because for a start, it's full of Americans, and I really like Americans. And there are lots of Americans who study there, or who are on placements there, or exchanges there, or things like that. And I'm constantly meeting Americans and having a good time meeting Americans, and all kinds of interesting Americans from all kinds of different parts of America, which is just interesting and diverse, and I really like that. Being a North London university and having quite a local contingent of students as well, it's full of students who aren't white as well. It's not like some of the other universities I could have possibly picked, which would have maybe been a bit more homogenous and a bit more kind of typically British in the old-fashioned sense. London Met has a big mix of ethnicities, and it has a huge amount of it also has recruitment programs that are based in oh hello, something's ticking. Recruitment programs that are based in India and Pakistan and China and Nigeria, I think, which basically means there are also a lot of students that come from those places. So I'm in a massively international university that feels shit. Oh dear. I'm in a massively international university that feels hugely varied, and so that's a pretty good score. I wonder if anyone else has even played this daily challenge. Matthew Cox has, and he's beaten me. That's ridiculous. Because what happens when I go to this university is I actually meet people from all over the world, and I also meet people with enormous wealth disparity. I've kind of run out of time, so briefly I should say that I live pretty much in hand-to-mouth financial situations for a while, and sometimes in places that aren't very nice in North London. And sometimes it was an incredibly difficult period of my life. And I also met students from around the world some of whom were incredibly privileged. I mean, I had conversations with people who would say, oh, where I come from, everyone has a chauffeur, by which they meant everyone who matters. And there are a lot of people where I live who don't matter. People who would say, it's quite normal to have 2 houses. And I've never had a house, and possibly never will, I don't know. And my course ended up, because of financial problems and struggling with paying for things and with my life, it ended up kind of being drawn out over 5 years. I got an extremely high upper second for my philosophy degree. I was like a fraction of a percentage point away from a first class degree, from the highest possible mark. And it's also possible that one of the marks I was awarded was a typo. And if that had been changed, I could have a first class degree. It's hard to tell now, having worked there and seen what the administration in that place is like. Whoops, I've for some reason accidentally opened up the wrong part of Steam. I can understand how that maybe happens a lot, but also the philosophy department has kind of been pulled apart and the university's gone through massive administrative changes. It also was fined a lot of money by the government for having incorrect student figures. I need to be careful what I say here because I'm not entirely sure what the correct way to phrase this is, but you can find this. There are some big news stories in major newspapers from the UK about how the university basically had to pay back the government a lot of money because it had been paid money to take care of students that it actually turned out not to have. All of this, including my being like the vice president of the Drama Society, 2 years running and winning awards for that, and being in the LGBT Society, because that was a cause I thought was worth supporting, and ending up working there for a while and ending up being a kind of a program manager where I was in charge of about 60 peer support students, which was interesting to be running something that big, kind of slightly by accident. Basically, what I was going to say, if I had more time, can I just do another daily? Another day has passed. Should I just do another daily challenge? This is nuts. It's going to be a really long video. It's going to take ages to encode and upload, and it's so rambling. So let's combine them, because midnight has passed. It's not going to go as well as the last one. I had a jetpack and everything last time. Let's backtrack rather than try and emergency summarize everything as I was going to do. There's a really good thing that was written by J.K. Rowling a little while ago. I don't really read J.K. Rowling stuff, but as a person I have quite a lot of respect for her, and I think she's underrated as a person, particularly as a single mother with experiences of serious poverty and seeing what it's like to live in Britain and how you are treated as a poor person, as a single mother. She really understands that, and I think it was in the Telegraph she wrote something that was directed towards the Conservative Party about what it really means to live on hand to mouth all the time and to be checking to see whether you have enough money every day to be able to buy anything at all, or whether a can of soup that costs a few pence is something you can actually afford to come home with at the end of the day. that was my experience for quite a while as a student in North London, because my family background meant that I couldn't really rely on do what quite a few of my peers were doing. I discovered I'd often ask other students, how do you possibly afford this? How do you do that? I don't understand how you manage to do this. And the answer was so often, oh well, I get money from my parents, or my parents help me out with this. My family situation was such that I could never do that. I was very lucky that I had a couple of friends who were helpful with money, and would basically, the guy who I lived with for a while would not mind if I was late with the rent sometimes, because he understood that I was struggling with money, and I had friends who also would spot me money sometimes and not ask for me to pay it back in a hurry, and that made a massive difference to basically whether I was able to exist and survive, because the student loan money was it just went once you pay for the cost of the course, and once you pay for I was not in the cheapest of places. Unfortunately, I made not brilliant choices about where to live at first, and I found out later that my friends were staying in cheaper places that were better, because they were better at finding housing than I was. And a lot of my time at university, my time generally involved making poor choices and then learning from the mistakes that I made. But yeah, the money just went. You know, I had a lot of the time I had no money, and I would get into amounts of debt and pay it off, and get into it and pay it off, and work. I would study and work. I'd study all day or work all day and then come home and study, or vice versa, quite often. And it's not really very much I could do about it, except that's just what was required. That's what I needed to do to exist, to stay alive. And there was no real way out of it. It was not at all like glamorous or exciting or nice. Or staying in halls was excellent, because the halls were cheap but they were safe, and I met a load of new people, and I met all these wonderful international students and really enjoyed them, and found that generally differences in nationality are actually, they're not all that significant. It's differences in ideas or attitudes that are what matter, or what don't matter. And so it's, you know, you just meet people from everywhere and you can get along. But yeah, the grimy realism of living in London was a heck of a thing. And then particularly seeing how some of the people I was at university with survived quite casually because of the support they were able to have, or the backgrounds they had, was kind of astonishing. You get to see how people do or don't identify each other, or how they do or don't sort of, you know, they have very different experiences day to day, and things happen to some people that other people just can't relate to. And what I rapidly became unable to relate to was a sense of security and safety. That went away, and to a degree it's actually kind of never come back since. Now that went poorly. That wasn't what was supposed to happen, because that dog's probably now dead. It's not, it's safe over there. That was almost perfectly timed. That was perfectly timed. I'm getting quite good at this bomb thing. Is it worth going over there to get that crate? It might be. Or it might not. But yes, okay, as I've just decided to double the length of this, and I had a huge amount of stuff in my head, let's try and explain, how, I mean, obviously the very word university implies everything, and I never understood people who wanted to go there and do a degree in a thing and do that thing and leave, like I'm doing a degree in business, whatever business actually is, and I will do business and then leave and have a job in business. I found a bunch of stuff to do that I wanted to do, and a lot of it was quite varied, and I joined the Drama Society, and I, by accident, ended up as the vice president, which meant I was kind of a producer of a bunch of things. And we we tried several things at the university that had never been tried before, ever. And most of them succeeded, and we won a bunch of awards for it, which was great. And that was a huge experience in terms of organising things and seeing what happens when you take charge of things and they don't work and they go wrong. And it was a huge experience in terms of meeting actors and would-be actors and people. Some of my friends are just now actors, have just become actors in films or in theatre. None of them are yet necessarily particularly famous, but who knows what might happen. And philosophy itself, as a course, I found fascinating, but someone who I was thinking of doing a video about but maybe didn't quite have enough to talk about was a woman called Kate Soper, who was one of the lecturers on my course, who I think is now retired. And she used to be on the radio sometimes, and she used to write for a bunch of different publications. And she helped me choose my... Sadly, she couldn't supervise my dissertation because she retired, but she helped me choose my dissertation topic, which was Simone de Beauvoir and second-wave feminism. And she was excellent at what she did. She was a really good lecturer. And one of the things that she did, that several of my lecturers did on our philosophy course, was explained how much of philosophy wasn't philosophy anyway, or how big a subject it is and how much it's about all sorts of things. And it's not just about... Philosophy isn't a self-contained subject that is like a discrete thing that nothing else relates to. Everything is connected. And she was extremely good at illustrating how that is so. And I don't know if you read my blog. I wrote something a little while ago about my favourite artist, Caspar David Friedrich, and I think it was actually her lectures that introduced me at one point to his work, to him. And I didn't expect to, go to university and learn about art history, for example, which I ended up learning stuff about. I didn't expect to learn a huge amount about theatre, but I did because of the people I met and the things that we did and the plays we ended up performing or the things we ended up reading. I discovered Kurt Vonnegut when I was at university because of the amazing science fiction bookshop that was down the road. And then I also started reading Lovecraft, and some of this tied in with a couple of the philosophy modules that I was doing at the time. And some of it also tied in with some of the history that I ended up learning and studying. And I ended up reading a couple of sociology texts. And some of this stuff is probably because I am just one of those people who just sometimes likes to learn about stuff and read. And I did a lot of stuff that was totally irrelevant to my course, and was, if I was just trying to do a philosophy degree and get out of there, then I could have done that, and I could have only read the books I was supposed to read for my course, and only covered stuff that I was supposed to cover, and not got irrelevant books out of the university and just read them because I thought they were interesting. But in doing so, I would have missed out on so many things. For a while I tried to get a placement studying in the US, but I wasn't able to sort it out, and I wasn't really sort of financially capable of doing it in the end, I don't think. But that turned out to be a good thing in retrospect. Monkeys are a pain, they are real trouble. But I've got some bombs, so everyone's happy. It gave me more time to spend mixing with people in London, and more time in the library, and more time reading a bunch of classic literature that I would never have read otherwise. The place had an enormous library. I mean, London Met has a bunch of problems, but oh dear. Now you see this is amazing and not supposed to happen. I don't really know how to deal with this, I'll be quite honest with you. Oh dear. Now that I can definitely say that's never happened before, ever. This is ridiculous. I don't know why I'm top of this one because midnight's just come over. What am I doing with my life? And this video. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Basically, university for me was amazing because it was an experience of a lot of different things and a lot of different people, and I deliberately tried different things. And I didn't so much deliberately try things that were uncomfortable as I just found myself in situations that were difficult, but I ended up learning the very, very rudiments of screenwriting, which helped me kind of help write the first script of Shut Up and Sit Down. I learned a huge amount of philosophy, which was just interesting, but I saw why people had the ideas that they did at particular times in history and how that ties into socially relevant and historically relevant things, and how that's built the world and how it's changed science and religion and thought. I learned more about feminism. I learned more about the rest of the world and met more people who were different, and learnt more about myself, and certainly yanked myself out of my comfort zone. I'm still financially kind of paying the price in some ways now. I paid my way. It took me a long time to pay my way out of debt because of difficulties trying to find a permanent, reliable job for quite a while. But I paid my way out of my overdraft about a year ago or something, finally. And I had some hilarious financial problems. At one point, my student loan didn't come through for 9 months because of a series of clerical errors by the student loans people, which got me into huge amounts of debt until I had to write them an angry letter, and I received an apology and a massive chunk of money all at once. But my university was supposed to offer me financial support at the time, but it could only offer me financial support if I was getting a student loan. And I only needed the financial support because I wasn't getting the student loan, so they couldn't give me money because I wasn't getting any money. If I'd been getting money, they could have given me money. My university experience was also full of that kind of administrative kind of craziness, which was in its own way educational as well. So in summary, it was good for me to do lots of things and to do things wrong and to sometimes make difficult decisions and be put in some very hard places, very difficult places. And it was certainly good to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds and who have a lot of different lifestyles, because you get a better idea of where people are coming from and you understand why people can or can't relate to each other. And it's eye-opening in ways that are sometimes positive and sometimes kind of dispiriting as well. Yeah, if you go to university, do lots of different things, or just in life it's a good idea to do lots of different things and go places and live different places and try stuff that you think you might like, because you always drive yourself or push yourself much more if you're in a situation where you're going for something that you would like to do, rather than just something that you could settle with or that's comfortable or that's okay. And that's neat. And I think it's still okay to be scared, but I don't know, it's good. I get questions about this from people who are thinking about this sort of thing sometimes. So maybe I've answered. I don't know. That I didn't sleep at all on the plane. It was the things that happened. I mean, you don't understand. I've just done, and bye.